Set. Like to call the meeting to order. It's 7:02. And I would like to request a moment of silence for a member passing away, Donald Rogers. He was a longtime member here. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, you want to recall?
Yes, please.
Okay, we have
Forgot what I was doing.
Alyssa Hurd, Mary Taggett, Joe Leggett, Kenny Baptiste, Robert Lassen, and Agent Dave Plachette.
Thank you. Okay. We'll go right into the continued hearings.
Do you have to say we're being filmed?
Oh, yeah. My head's not together today. I'd like to inform everybody that this meeting is being filmed for television. Okay, thank you. All right, first continued hearing, notice of intent, David
Coffin hour.
Coffenhour. Kara Leary, FP LLC.
Yeah, I'm Roland Leary, builder,
Okay,
LLC. David Carroll,
okay, David will highlight and then we'll go from there.
There's a couple there.
Yeah, there's two.
That's sure yours.
You don't need it.
You don't need that.
This project site is at 37 Willard Street, and the project involves the construction of a single-family dwelling in the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland. A 30 by 45-foot dwelling with a 10 by 14-foot deck, driveway, and landscaping are proposed in the buffer zone. The dwelling itself would be approximately 74 feet from the edge of the wetland, and the limit of work would be approximately 41 feet from the edge of the wetland. The septic system would be outside of the buffer zone. Hay bales and silt fence would be placed between the work and the resource area as shown on the plan. We had continued this hearing because we had not received a DEP file number. We have now received that, so I would recommend the approval of the project with an order of conditions with the standard conditions.
Okay, do you have anything to add, or? No, I do not. Questions, Rob? None.
No
Joe?
questions?
Alicia?
No.
Mary?
No question.
Anybody in the public? Okay. Take a
Motion to
motion.
close?
Joe's motion,
Second.
seconded by Alicia. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention?
Make a motion to approve this with the standard conditions.
Second.
Joe's motion, Alicia's second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. You're all set.
Thank you.
Okay, next, notice of intent. Gary DeMullen, care of McKinnon and Keys Engineering.
Hi.
Thank you. You haven't been around for a while.
Good evening. For the record, I'm Sandy Keys, McKinnon and Keys Engineering, representing Mr. and Mrs. Gary DeMullen, who are the owners of this subject property. And what we have here is a septic upgrade, including a D-night system. And we're not adding on to the house at all. No further upgrades other than just repairing the septic system that's already in existence there.
Okay, David will say his piece, and we'll go from there.
Trying to help him. Paperwork.
Yeah. Digging it up.
You didn't get back any of the green cards?
I got some of them back, David, but I must have them in my office. I did get a DEP number, too. I don't know
Yeah.
if you've received that yet.
No, I did get that.
Okay, there's a DEP number,
So we don't have
Available with
green
this.
cards. You get the-
and I thought I had them in my packet
Got to
here.
prove a mailing, though. Is that-
They were mailed on December 18th.
Right.
And I did hear from one of the abutters, Mrs. Louise Ballo, who emailed me, and she requested a copy of the plan, and we sent it out to her immediately, and I haven't heard from her yet, so. It's the only contact that we've had, and 3 of the other abutters were my former clients.
Okay, so the project site is at 20 Over Jordan Road, and the project involves upgrading a septic system in the buffer zone to a salt marsh and within a coastal flood zone. The existing system is to be replaced with a new Title V denitrification system. Due to the size limitations of the lot, the new leach field will be within the buffer zone to the
Yeah.
salt marsh, only approximately 40 feet to the marsh. All of the work would be done within the existing lawn area. Hay bales and silt fence would be used for erosion control at the project. There's no significant grade changes proposed. The only question I had really was whether or not this project has been approved by the Board of Health or not yet. As we heard, we did get a DEP file number for the project, so I would recommend approval of the project.
We haven't filed with the Board of Health yet because they wanted a complete package, including the deed restriction, keeping this to 2 bedrooms. And Mr. Demoulin just got word from the registry that they have indeed done that, and he's going to be forwarding me that so I can complete the package for Board of Health. Title V requires that for 2-bedroom systems.
All right.
Does that
Rob?
postpone us? Does that postpone us?
Have you at least applied for the Board of Health permit yet, or no?
Not yet, no. Bob wouldn't let me until the packet was complete, and there was a time delay with the Registry of Deeds. I guess they're backed up this time of year, too. And Mr. Demoulin said he did in fact receive word from them that it was filed, but he hadn't received the packet back. So with that, I'm going to file the complete package. But these are allowable variances for repairs under Title V. But
Okay,
as you know, we can't go forward until we receive Board of Health approval.
right. Typically, for a notice of intent, you're supposed to have applied for at least any of the other applicable local permits before we're supposed to go forward. So we may have to continue just for that reason, so you
Okay.
can make that
Can
application.
you continue it under the approval of the Board of Health? Or can you approve, I should say, with the anticipated approval of the Board of Health?
Well, as I said, we're really not supposed to at this point
Okay.
unless you apply for the permit. So
Okay.
in 2 weeks, we can.
Well, they're not in any hurry to get this done anyway, but the
Yeah.
packet has been a little bit dicey to get
Get the
back
green.
from the D-Night contractor, too. So
green
the only
cards
thing that's
back.
outstanding right now is the deed restriction. And as I say, there was a delay at the Registry of Deeds for Mr. Demoulin,
Okay.
so.
We'll get the green card, too.
Do we have?
Well, we got the proof of mailing, but she has the green cards in her office, so she can bring them next
I
time.
hope I
too.
do. I hope they didn't slip out of my folder.
I'd be comfortable, like Dave says, I'd be comfortable with doing a contingency of it getting approved, but I'd like to see the paperwork already filed in with the Board of Health. So,
Certainly.
okay?
Mhm.
Alicia?
I'm all set.
Larry?
All set.
Anybody in the public? Come on up to the table and identify yourself, please.
Hi, I am probably one of the green cards that came back, Sandy.
Oh, Mrs. Ballo.
No, I am actually Peggy Saunders, Zuplat, representing my mom.
Oh,
27
okay.
Old Jordan.
Oh,
She can't make it down tonight, but we have talked, and we just wanted to make sure that there was a survey of the current boundaries of the property in regards to the setbacks in the road. Do they do surveys like that for around the road, that the right-of-way, the path, the
Well, what-
private way is?
what we're
stays-
addressing here is just the repair of the septic system, which is in the rear, so it wasn't necessary to denote that.
Okay, so I heard you mention earlier that somebody asked for a plan. Is there
Mrs.
a plan?
Mrs. Louise Ballo, correct.
Right, she's a couple of houses up from us.
Yeah.
Could we have a copy also?
Sure. Take this.
Because that's what we were concerned about, is where it was going.
Yeah,
So it's-
absolutely, you can take that.
So we should continue.
Give your mother my regards.
Joe's gonna continue it.
Is she really?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, and my contact information is in that letter
Yeah,
too,
that's
so.
good. The 17th is gonna be
Yeah.
Shouldn't have to.
You're welcome.
I ought to be.
No.
Yeah. Anybody else? Nope. Yeah, you can ask
Yeah.
if you want.
Yeah, I just got one quick question.
Sure.
We continue this to the 17th, will that give you enough time to get this filed before the Board of Health?
Yeah, well, from what I understand, Jim just received that copy. I guess they give you a certified copy of that deed restriction, and that's what Bob wanted to have filed.
Okay,
And he wants that done ahead of time. It used to be that it
Yeah.
could be in before the certificate of compliance was issued, but he's getting very firm about having that done beforehand.
okay, so if we
So-
continue to the 17th, we should be in good shape then, right?
I would say so, yes.
Okay, that would be my motion to continue this to the 17th.
Second?
If not, I'll let you know.
All right, give Dave a call.
Yeah,
Joe's
I will.
motion, seconded by Rob. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome, thank you.
I know.
17.
Man Farms. Care of GAF Engineering.
Thank you.
Evening.
Engineering on behalf of Man Farms.
Thank you. David? He's getting slow over here.
I know.
Give him some energy drinks.
Smaller size.
I know that place.
You got it.
So this project is at Lot 1027 off of Marion Road and Hathaway Road, and the project involves renovating and squaring off existing cranberry bogs, constructing dike roads, and installing new flumes at the site. The existing bogs would be renovated and reshaped according to the plan submitted. One of the questions we had at the last meeting was, how would the stream within the bog system be contained so that while the work is going on, there wouldn't be sediments and whatnot running downstream from the work site? So we had continued the meeting to get some further detail on how that potentially would work. So I'd just like to hear from from Mr. Madden to see what he has on that note.
Okay, I have a little sketch and something for the record on that for you.
Thank you, Bill.
Do you need that another, or you all set?
I have an extra. What I did on the first sheet was outline the practices that we're gonna employ during construction. I overlaid it on the Ocean Spray Exhibit A on the back side, on the second sheet. What you'll see is each one of those key items they're labeled 1 through 7. And they're not very legible. They didn't do a very good job of outlining on the plan, on the Exhibit A rather, but what we have done is identified each practice at each location on that overview plan. So in summary, point number 1, key number 1, was to install the flume planks in the outlet flume at bog W6. W6 is the most southerly bog. It's the one that's right up against Route 6. And if you were to look at the plan that we filed with it, there's a culvert with a flume on that, at that location. The culvert has slots for flume planks to be installed on the upstream side and on the downstream side. So we'll install the flume planks in that flume to prevent any water from finding its way downstream to the outlet that goes into Beaver Dam Brook that outlets into the Weemac River. The second key was to install the flume planks in bog section W4. W4 is the second one down from the reservoir, and the reason why we're installing the planks in that one is we want to isolate our flow from the up gradient bogs from passing through the down gradient bogs. So there's a small one at W6, and there's a small 2 in one of those circles at W4 that outlines where the flume sections would be placed in. I mean, the flume planks would be placed. Then key number 3 indicates we're going to install temporary pumps at each one of those locations. The upstream side of the flume between 4 and 5, and also down at the one at W6, at Route 6. So we'll put a pump in there, and we'll pump any excess water that's developed on the site back to the reservoir. Blackmere Reservoir, I have it labeled on the top of the sheet. That's the water supply for the Cranberry Bog system. So what we would do is either tie the, what they have is an irrigation line that runs from the pump house that's on the corner of the reservoir. And that irrigation line runs all the way down across Route 6 and deals with the southerly sections as well. So what we're gonna do is install 2 pumps. It either run with hose, the large 4-inch diameter collapsible hose back to a sedimentation device. I have 2 attached to the back of the information, supplemental information. One shows just a 10 by 10 ring of hay bales. The other one is we have the bag, dirt bag tied to the pump discharge so that we can treat any water that's being pumped back to that reservoir prior to discharging back into the pond. So those are those keys that aren't very clearly shown, but they're identified on the northerly half of the site. That was in piece above Route 6. Then what we've also included is, you know, in the event you have a large rainfall event or a certain condition that, you know, resulted in overtopping of the bog or the need to let some water go, what we included is in section 7 and 8, those are the ones on the opposite side of Route 6, that we would, that we'd also put some hay bales in the middle of the center ditch at 100-foot intervals on bog section W7 and likewise on bog section W8. Also on W8, we'll install the flume plank, the outlet flume plank of that discharges from W8 into Beaver Dam Brook. So we'll place our flume planks in that, and then we'll isolate our flow to be confined to the bogs. And then we'll, where number 7 is noted, and there's a notation of a tailwater sump on the plan, I'm sorry, on my sketch. That's the small tailwater pond, and there's a flume that goes from bog section 8 into that tailwater pond. There's already a pump located there, and that pump collects tailwater and discharges it right back to the reservoir. So that's how we would plan to control any water that's developed on the site. We expect to see some precipitation in the form of snowfall and melt and rainwater. We'll also get a little bit of groundwater discharge. They're not going to be actively managing 4 and 5, but 5 and 6, since they'll be under construction. And when we get to reconstructing W3 and W4, we'll really follow the same protocol for those sections as well. And that's likely to happen not this winter and spring, but perhaps the following winter and spring. They're planning on doing 5 and 6 this year. So I isolates our flow, it directs it back to the existing water supplies of the bog, it provides a reasonable degree of sediment, control sediment that might find its way into the water. It is sandier material in that area, and any material in the past that's really run off the site or run from construction forms a little delta in the bog ditch that's dug out, and the remaining sediment that's in the water, I think, is what would be the fraction that's the 20% or not the 80% that we're readily able to control. So that's what our plan was for managing the water during construction.
Yeah, no, I think that sounds like good solutions to the issue, so I would recommend the approval of the project with the condition that those remediation actions be put in as conditions.
Rob?
Almost set?
All set.
All set?
Mary? Anybody in the public? Okay. Take a
No
motion.
questions? Okay. Motion to close?
Second.
Joe's motion. Seconded by Alicia. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Further motion?
Motion to grant with standard stipulations plus the added resolve to the salting problems and stuff like that that JAF has presented us.
Okay, Joe's motion, seconded by Mary. All those in favor?
Right.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Okay, we're gonna move into the public hearings.
Yep. Ready?
Yep, when you're ready.
Town of Wareham Conservation Commission Memorial Town Hall, 54 Marion Road, Wareham, Massachusetts, 02571. Notice of public hearing. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6, a public hearing will be held in room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass, on Wednesday, January 3rd, 2018, at 7:15 p.m. On the request for determination of applicability for Alice Kim Lombardi, 6 Allen Ave, Wareham, Mass. 02571, to install a screen porch of an existing deck for property located on Assessors Map 50F, lots 146, 147, 6 Allen Avenue, Wareham, Massachusetts.
Thank you. Anybody here for that hearing? Yes, I am. Okay, just step up and identify yourself for the record, into the mic, please.
Kim Lombardi, Alice Kim Lombardi.
Okay, David will highlight. Do you have the
Yes, I do.
cards?
I got 2 back. I didn't get the third. I have 3 direct.
All right, very good, thank you. Okay, this project site is at 6 Allen Ave in the Swifts Beach area, and the project involves constructing a screened-in porch in the buffer zone to a coastal bank. A 10 by 15-foot screen porch is proposed to be constructed on the existing deck at this site. This would require the installation of 2 new footings to support the new structure. Again, the screen porch would be within the footprint of the existing deck. The 2 footings would be Bigfoot sonotube footings for the structure, and these would be approximately 20 feet from the top of the coastal bank. All of the work is proposed to be done by hand, so I would recommend the approval of the project with a negative determination number 2.
Do you have anything to say or add? Or?
No, I just want a screen porch, a small little screen porch on my deck. So the footing's there already, so basically they want to modify it, the engineer on his plans, so that's why I'm here.
Okay, Rob, any questions? Joe?
I have no questions.
Alicia? Mary?
No.
Anybody in the public?
See nobody.
Okay.
Motion to close?
Second.
Joe's motion, seconded by Alicia. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Further motion?
Motion to approve with a -2 determination?
Okay, Joe's motion, seconded by Rob. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Does she have to be told she can't start the work till Dave says anything like that?
Yeah, don't start any work until you let Dave know that you're gonna start work.
Yeah, yeah, they, right,
Okay.
right.
All right.
Notice,
No, I mean,
notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act.
I don't know if he's having trouble hearing you, if you need a mic.
Thank you. All right. That better? Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass. On Wednesday, January 3rd at 2018 at 7:15 p.m. on the request for determination of applicability for Buzzards Bay Coalition, care of Michelle Krauser, 114 Front Street, New Bedford, Mass. 02740, to create a trail on the DeJesus Conservation Area land for property located on Assessor's Map 96, lots 1010A, 1010B, 1010C, and 1009, Main Street, Wareham, Massachusetts.
Anybody here for that hearing? Okay, they've requested a continuance till January 17th.
So moved.
Second.
Joe's motion, seconded by Alicia. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Next hearing, please.
Yep. Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6. Public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Massachusetts, on Wednesday, January 3rd, 2018, at 7:15 p.m. on the request for determination of applicability for Stephen and Charlene Santo, care of GAF Engineering, Inc., 266 Main Street, Wareham, Mass. 02571, to upgrade a sewage disposal system for property located on Assessor's Map 129B-5, lots 14, 15, 29 Lake Drive, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you.
Evening, Brian Grady, GAF Engineering, here on behalf of the applicants.
You, David?
The project site is at 29 Pine Lake Drive, and the project involves upgrading a septic system in the buffer zone to Spectacle Pond. The existing system is to be replaced with a new Title V system. Some of the piping and the installation of the new septic tank, along with the removal of the existing septic tank, would be within the buffer zone to Spectacle Pond. The existing leach field is to be abandoned in place. The new leach field would be outside the buffer zone to the wetland. The system would also have a separate pump chamber. The nearest work to the pond is approximately 90 feet from the edge of the pond. There's no grade changes proposed, so I would recommend the approval of the project with the issuance of a -3, and just with the added condition to include some silt fence around the work area.
Anything to add? Anything to add?
No additions, no.
Rob? Joe?
No question.
Alicia?
Dave, was that silt fence?
Yeah.
No questions.
Mary?
No question.
Anybody in the public? Hearing none? Take a motion.
Motion to close?
Second.
Joe's motion, seconded by Alicia. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? For the motion?
Motion to grant the standard conditions plus the added condition of silt fence within the work area.
Second.
All right, Joe's motion, seconded by Mary. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Ready?
Yes, please.
Okay. Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., on Wednesday, January 3rd, 2018, at 7:15 p.m. on the request for determination of applicability for Timothy S.C. and Christine M. Smith, care of Sharon Associates, Incorporated, 323 Neck Road, Rochester, Mass., to construct an addition across the front of existing house and add a second floor addition to the house for property located on Assessor's Map 46A, Block 1, Lot 120, 83 Pinehurst Drive, Wareham, Mass.
Okay, Representative, please step up to the mic, identify yourself for the record, and David will highlight.
He's
Thank
probably
you.
gonna hand out some.
I'm Bruce Rocha, the contractor working with, for Fisher and Rocha, working with the Smiths on the project. Unfortunately, Mr. Sharon is not going to make it here, I guess, tonight. I was hoping he was going to be here, but he's not here.
Okay. Do you have your,
He's got all the
Butter number.
paperwork, all the other paperwork and everything. I've got the bare bones of it,
okay.
so.
Yeah, so again, the project is at 83 Pinehurst Drive, and the project involves the construction of an addition within a coastal flood zone, and also within the riverfront area of the Broad Marsh River. An 8-by-32-foot addition is proposed on the street side of the house, and then there's a second-story addition to go on top of the existing first story of the house. And again, this is within coastal flood zone AE elevation 14. The addition would have a poured concrete foundation. There's no grade changes proposed. I just did have a question in terms of what is the current situation of the area where the addition's gonna be in the front? Is it grass? Is it driveway?
It's currently lawn.
Okay. Other than that, I really didn't have any questions, but I would recommend a continuance at this time because we don't have the abutter notification cards for the project.
You have anything else to add?
No, I think that's pretty much what we'd like to do, put the addition on and
Any questions, Rob?
The addition's just one story, the second story's on the original?
no, second story is above the addition as well.
Okay.
Joe?
Questions?
Alicia?
I have a question, and that is this existing second story totally over the original house? Or are
Yes.
you adding?
Yes, except for that back little bump in the
Except
backside.
for.
Correct.
So you've changed the actual, you're not using the, you're adding to the house
We're adding-
laterally?
Adding to the home, correct. And adding a second story.
I guess I have questions on this.
Yeah,
I'm not quite sure.
Sounds like you don't have the gist of it yet.
I have questions because he's not using the footprint only of the house. Does this matter? I mean, I know that this is all land that's disturbed already, but.
Yeah, but he's, the addition, the second
Yeah.
floor is actually going
Yeah.
to, the addition's in the front of the house.
Yep.
On that plot plan you're looking at, you can, if you look at one,
Yeah, right here.
one's the existing and one's the proposed.
Right.
So you can see the dotted line is showing where the existing home is and where
Right.
we'd like to put the addition.
Got it?
I know exactly what he's doing, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mary?
Question?
I'm saving it.
Any-
Question actually, what does that do with the setback is now, does that have anything to do with us?
No.
Okay. Go on.
Okay, anybody in the public got any questions? No?
Motion to continue this to the 17th?
Second?
Joe's motion, seconded by Mary. All those in favor? Opposed, abstentions?
Abstain.
You abstaining? One abstention. Alicia? Okay, next one,
Ready?
please.
Sure. Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Protective Bylaw, Division 6. The public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., on Wednesday, January 3rd, 2018, at 7:15 p.m. on the request for an amended order of conditions for Jason Shohei, care of Shorefront Consultant, 290 Center Street, Dennisport, Mass., to amend the order of conditions for property located on map 5, Assessors Map 5, Lot 1004, 12 Granston Way, Buzzards Bay.
I'm Jason Showit.
Thank you. David will highlight. Green cards? You need green cards?
Yeah, it's good.
Do you have your green cards?
The abutters list is the same as previously, so
Right, but the abutters still had to be notified, which it was done.
Right.
The representative did do that, but typically we would want to see that the green cards, did anybody have those?
Mark would have the green cards. I don't have them.
Okay. They were mailed by the time,
Oh, that's the copy of it.
yeah.
These are minor modifications to the dock, the dock as described to reduce the impact on the beach and on the view from the coastline.
Okay. So the project site is at 12 Granston Way, and the request is to amend an order of conditions for a modification to the originally approved plan. The original approval was for a 130-foot pier ramp and float system. The request is to modify the plan to lower the height of the fixed pier by just under 2 feet from what was originally approved. The overall footprint of the structure would remain the same, with the exception of the fact that there would have to be stairs added to each side of the pier now, because the pier would no longer be high enough for people to walk under it. So the question I had was, what is going to be actually placed on the beach for these stairs? Because there's nothing in the detail on the plan representing what that's gonna be, so I just had a question on that. If it's just gonna be, some posts to hold the stairs, that's fine, but if there's any proposed concrete slabs or anything, I would say I would recommend against anything like that. This is generally a minor modification, so I don't necessarily have a problem with it, just wanna know the details of what's gonna happen on the beach, 'cause.
Right, the stairs going down will just be, there'll be wood frame stairs, the same pressure-treated wood that the dock's going to be built out of. And it's only 3 stairs. And the addition of the stairs is mandated for public access, but it also, moving the dock down lets people walk on the seawall, which otherwise would be obstructed by the dock. So overall, it's better for access to the beach. And it's also, will match the docks this way. The original design that we had approved was sort of our preferred design, but since there's going to be a dock now built to the west of this property, we wanted them all to match, all 3 docks to match. So really all we're doing is that we're lowering the dock 2 feet and and changing the way the piles are structured so that they go all the way up to the top of the rails.
Rob?
I'm
Alicia?
None.
Mary?
No.
Public? Anybody? Okay. Questions, you all right?
Everybody's all set on questions?
I am.
They did mail them on time, so.
All right, I guess we'll make a motion to close.
Second.
Joe's motion, seconded by Alicia. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Further motion?
Make a motion to grant the OCC with a further stipulation that, support of the
You need the
stairs,
green cards.
support of the stairs is gonna be done with posts, wooden posts, not cement or anything else
Right, no,
like
there we
that.
know, yeah,
And contingent on getting the green cards.
thank you.
Okay. Joe's motion,
Second.
seconded by Mary. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Last one.
Yes, please.
Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., on Wednesday, January 3rd, 2018, at 7:15 p.m. On the notice of intent for Philip Chiarluce, 19 Highland Road, Wareham, Mass. 02571, for cultivation of oysters on a shellfish farm, Grant W1, for property located in the Wareham River adjacent to Edgewater Drive, Wareham, Mass.
You? Identify yourself for the record, please.
Hi, my name's Philip Chiarlucci.
Okay. David?
Okay, this proposed project is actually in the Wareham River. It's an aquaculture project, and it's just off the shore in the vicinity of 29 Long Beach Road and 98 Edgewater Drive. That's the general location of where this will exist. Again, the project is an aquaculture project to raise oysters, and this is within land under the ocean, within land containing shellfish, and within a coastal flood zone. The area is also within the estimated habitat of rare and endangered species. The proposed aquaculture operation would occupy approximately 2 acres of water sheet area, which would be identified with floating buoys. Floating net baskets would be installed within the grant area, and these would be anchored with helical screw anchors that would be installed according to the grid pattern that was submitted. The oyster grow cages would be set out in strings approximately 100 feet in length and approximately 30 feet apart within the grant area. The town and the Mass Division of Marine Fisheries have approved the grant, subject to other required permits. At this point, though, we don't have a DEP file number for the project, and we don't have comments yet from Mass Natural Heritage and Endangered Species. So with that, I would have to recommend a continuance of the hearing until we get that information.
What was that, DEP number?
Right. DEP file number and the comments from the Endangered Species Program.
Okay, I've sent them a notice of intent, I'm just waiting.
Yeah, they don't typically respond incredibly quickly, so it's
Okay.
not unusual that you have to get at least one continuance before you
Okay.
get their comments.
I did hear back from Marine Fisheries, from the notice of intent, they sent me a letter.
Yeah, we got that as
Okay.
well, yep.
Gary signed off on this one. I know the Board of Selectmen have.
Yeah, Gary's aware of it, he's reviewed it.
Okay, you've got notifications, right?
Yeah.
All right, Rob, any questions?
There's a fair amount of moorings scattered along there.
Not in that particular
Not in that
location.
particular,
No.
but yeah, I was trying to, I don't know it from the road, but I do know it from the water, and I was trying to,
No, the water's roughly waist deep,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, okay. That was my only concern when I was first reading it.
There are moorings to the, I guess, the south of the
Right.
grant, probably several hundred yards away.
Yeah, I kind of live around the corner, so
Okay,
I
yeah.
go through there once in a while.
Yep.
So, that's all. I
No,
wasn't
you
quite
don't want to
sure
go through, you'll hit a rock if you go through there.
Yeah, yeah. Yep, no problem, no questions.
Joe?
No questions?
Alicia?
None.
Mary?
No question.
Anybody in the public? Come up to the table, identify yourself, speak into the mic, please.
Hi there, my name's Lee Woodworth, I'm at 29 Long Beach in Wareham. My concern about these, first of all, we've had farmers out there for many years. My husband's family has been down there since 1920. And we've had Mr. Hammond there, and Charlie Maxim, and Mr. Hammond's grandson use all that land out there, and we're not opposed to that. What I'm opposed to right now are these oyster groves and the netting that goes underneath. Since I found out that there's a diamond head terrapin turtle that is in that area. And I spoke to Dave early in the week that it so happens in our other property this past year, we had a turtle come and lay the eggs and such, and we watched the eggs. Once the turtles hatch, the turtles are all over the place, and he had to redirect some to the water. If you have these nettings, I'm just concerned about the turtles going out. I've heard from somebody else, well, the turtles like sitting on top of these oyster groves, which is great when they're adult, we've seen them this size. But when they're these little baby things going this big, and you have the netting going across the grove, are they going to find their way out? And as Dave said to me, this is going to be brought before the Mass Heritage Endangered Species, and I'll be in contact with you to get their email address to find out, is this something that should be looked at? Once again, I have no problem with the fishermen, you're going to call the shot anyways, with them doing their shellfish on the ground. It's these nettings that are up above and the turtles, and will they be able to survive with that out there?
And that's one of the reasons why we have to continue the hearing, because we have to get the comments from that organization so they can tell us if this is going to be okay or if it's not. So that's one of the reasons why we have to continue to wait for their comments.
Okay, great.
Yep.
That's wonderful to hear. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else?
Okay, move to continue this to January 17th.
Second.
Joe's motion, seconded by Mary. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that's the public hearings. Continued hearing for notice of intent for Bruce Miller, care of GAF Engineering.
Small prints, I like it. Small prints, I like it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Brian Grady, GAF Engineering.
Thank you. David, when you're set there.
Okay, so this project is at 258 Barker Road, and the project involves the installation of a dock in White Island Pond A 4 by 40-foot aluminum dock is proposed to be installed at this location. It's proposed to be a seasonal pier and would be removed before the winter. Pipe piles would be proposed to be installed at the end of the structure. And at the last meeting, I had recommended that the ones furthest out into the water should also be removed at the end of each season or when the dock is removed. There was a question at the last meeting relative to the boat that would be utilizing the structure and as to what kind of draft it had, if it was going to be able to meet the bylaw requirements in terms of having at least 12 inches below the bottom of the boat and the substrate. So that was something we had asked for additional information on. We've got a revised plan here tonight that we're just seeing for the first time, so I'll have Brian explain what that is and why we have a new
Yeah,
plan.
the only change on the revised plan is we've just removed the note, or modified the note for the pipe piles, that they're to be removed seasonally with the dock. That addressed your one concern. The other concern regarding the draft, Mr. Miller has made some calls. He bought his boat, pontoon boat used, so he called the prior dealer. And what he can do is add a jack plate to the transom, which will lift that motor up. And depending where that's mounted on the transom, we should be able to meet that, your 12-inch requirement. But what he's been doing is he's been beaching it currently. So regardless, the installation of the dock will be an improvement because he'll no longer have to beach it to get access to the boat.
Rob? Joe?
None.
Mary?
All set.
Anybody in the public? Well, hearing none.
Guess motion to close?
Second.
Joe's motion, second by Alicia. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Further motion?
Motion to grant with the new revisions on the two outermost pipes, and that the motor they'll maintain a 12-inch minimum draft. Second.
Joe's motion, second by Mary. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, continued notice of intent for Richard J. Smith, trustee, care of JF Engineering, JC Engineering, excuse me.
Good evening, Brad Bertolo, JC Engineering.
Thank you. David?
Go for it. Where's the sun? Is it about this whole thing?
This is the one we looked at.
Okay, this project site is at 39 Priscilla Ave. The project involves demolition of an existing dwelling and the reconstruction of a new dwelling, and this is in the buffer zone to White Island Pond. The existing 20 by 38-foot dwelling with associated retaining walls is to be removed, and a new 34 by 44-foot dwelling with attached wraparound deck is proposed, approximately 17 feet from the edge of the pond. At the last meeting, we had discussed trying to reduce the footprint of this structure within the 30-foot no-activity zone. There was some discussion of trying to get some modified layouts and so forth to achieve that. We did get a revised plan, which you have in front of you tonight, which did move the house back a couple of feet, but did not necessarily remove work from the 30-foot no-activity zone. In my view, I would prefer to see some better effort made to either remove the house from the 30-foot, or the work from the 30-foot no-activity zone, or work within the existing footprint of the house that was there. You have the right to do that, the house is already there. But with the proposal to totally tear it down and rebuild a whole totally new structure, and you have the ability to make that footprint really whatever you want, I think we should try to achieve as much little work within the 30-foot as we can get. So that's really my viewpoint on it. The board can discuss it. Brad can discuss his reasoning for the revised plan.
Hey, Brad.
And by the way, I just got this afternoon, so Brad and I didn't really have a chance to discuss it.
Yep. So I spoke with the applicants, and they had their mindset on a specific design of a house. It's a ranch-style house similar to what's there, obviously a larger footprint. We did look at the amount of impact within the 30-foot buffer zone, and we're considerably reducing the amount of area within that buffer zone. We could build on that same footprint, which is currently almost 13 feet from the pond. And now we're almost 22 feet from the pond with the actual deck itself. The main concrete foundation of the existing dwelling is now completely outside of the 30-foot buffer. What remains within the 30-foot buffer is the deck and some sunroom, or a portion of the sunroom. I did add a table on the plan, on the new plan, that shows the comparison of the areas between what's there today and what's proposed on this plan that's in front of you, the revised plan. Right now, we have 186 square feet of structure within that 30-foot buffer zone. That includes some concrete walkways or paths that are right adjacent to the basement door to the southern side of the structure.
Yeah.
And we're completely removing all that impervious area outside, within that 30-foot buffer. The deck itself is reducing about 180 square feet of deck area within that 30-foot buffer zone. And the elevated sunroom, which would be 1 story up, obviously there's nothing there today. It's situated within the footprint, partially within the footprint of the existing foundation, and partly, or the remaining area, on top of footprint of an existing deck. Again, that sunroom will be 1 story up. It's obviously impervious with a roof and walls, but pervious underneath, so any runoff that tends to travel underneath the structure from beyond the footprint of that sunroom will infiltrate. So I think it's a considerable improvement over what's there today. We're roughly 230 square feet of less footprint within that 30-foot buffer, and a considerable setback, greater setback off of the pond.
Okay.
One other last comment was relative to the structures and whether or not they were licensed. We discussed that at the last meeting, so that would also be something that the applicant would have to address going forward.
The applicant has no issue with obtaining any necessary licenses for structures that aren't licensed. I haven't researched them, but I don't believe there are probably any license for that. Again, the dock that's furthest to the north is the neighbor's There may have been, I'm not sure, the existing aluminum dock, it's not in the water now, it's a seasonal dock. I didn't get clarification if that was replaced a former dock. There was at one time two dwellings. It was two different properties here. They removed the dwelling to the south. It's pretty much located where that gravel driveway is. That was at one point a dwelling that was removed. So that wooden dock, the most southern wooden dock, probably was associated with that dwelling. There may or may not have been a dock associated with the current dwelling that still stands today. But we have no issue with making that a condition, that a license be requested.
So they combined the lots at some point?
It was two houses, 4 total lots, 2 at address number 39, and 2 of the lots were address number 33. They didn't want to rebuild that structure, and they just removed it. They wanted the yard space. That was, again, another reason why they didn't want to look at turning the dwelling, because that's their 1 yard space that they have for this property, just to the south of the dwelling.
Rob?
I still have problems with the no activity zone. I'm with you on, on the fact that there's you can do a design change. I know we can't do anything about the existing structure, and we're all stuck with a grandfathered thing, and you have all the right in the world to use that. But I don't see any overwhelming reason to, at this point, allow something in a no activity zone when it could be designed around it. And then I guess I still have a little problem with the sunroom is really a 4-season room in practicality, but it doesn't sit well with me. That's where I am.
Joe?
No questions?
Alicia?
I have a question. The proposed sunroom, which is on the 2nd floor, what's underneath it?
It's probably crushed stone underneath the deck.
So we're gonna have we're gonna have poles that come down like this and a sunroom sitting up there and then a deck off here? Or is the deck going all the way around where the sunroom is, and then up above, you have the sunroom, and down below, you have the deck that's covered?
No, the sunroom itself is off of the 1st floor, the main level. It's a 1-story house.
Okay, yeah.
There will be living space on the basement level. That's the ground floor. So it'll look like 2 stories on the water side, but it's really just a 1-story house. The deck doesn't wrap around the sunroom. It's basically built on top of the deck that they will build.
The sunroom is on top of the deck. And again,
same level, nothing above that.
and again, it will probably be insulated and be more of a 3-season room. as Rob
It's
said.
called for a sunroom, a 3-season room, yep, with walls
three-season with
walls
walls
and the windows that have
Yeah.
replaceable screens.
It's not a walkout, is it, underneath?
This is a walkout, correct? So it's 1 story up. Again, we're pulling it quite a distance away, and I completely understand the 30-foot no-touch. We do a lot of work in this town. This is just one site that the entire site's been disturbed. There's nothing on this property that's, I guess, a benefit. The benefit here is that we're removing or relocating some impervious area away from this pond and reducing structure
I mean, I
that's sitting
understand,
within that
I
footprint.
do understand the gain, but it really doesn't sit well with me. I mean, and with a walkout underneath, I mean, it's essentially, there is no 30-foot no-touch zone there. I mean, it just, in all practicality and usability, and a walkout underneath and a 3-season, quote-unquote, sunroom above it, and it's simply, there's the actual usage and how it's gonna be used, there is no restriction there.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, they're just, I don't know.
I guess my thing is that not having worked a lot with these projects like this, is what makes it so that, I mean, when you're doing a new construction, you have to stay within the realm of the laws. And, 30-foot no disturb zone, height restrictions and stuff like that. You have an old dwelling there, and I understand that it's a little closer to the pond, but it's smaller. It would be far less impactful than that, using that small foundation. And so when you say, we're that much farther away, but really and truly, the house itself with a walkout and all that is a very large house. It's, it's a question that I guess the town has to decide, and we have to decide whether or not that's something which is livable. I mean, you look at it and you know exactly where right out front they'll put the grill and a patio and that sort of thing. I mean, who wouldn't? It's a hard situation.
Well, again, we're moving this house considerable distance away from the pond than where it sits today, which could be rebuilt there. And the impervious area within that 30-foot buffer zone is, we completely removed it. That whole house is now set back close to 10 feet further back, 9 feet further back from where it sits today. I mean, we could put in a dry wells to handle roof runoff. That would help out. There's obviously, I don't believe there's any dry wells today capturing any runoff, but it's definitely an improvement over what's there.
All set?
Mary? I am all set.
Yeah, question, this area here, is this stairs from the deck, or what is this in this far corner over here? That goes into the area, this there?
Those are steps, yeah.
There's steps from the deck?
That would be the older plan, correct? That's the older plan.
Yeah, this is the one, there's the steps. They're there too.
They're further back.
Yeah, they're just setbacks, there's only a couple steps now.
So there are
All right,
these,
they stand
and
back a
these,
little
and
more,
these.
yeah, all right. No other question?
Okay. Anybody from the public? All right. It's time to make a decision.
I'd like to ask just one quick question.
Go ahead.
Brian. Square footage that's actually being taken out of 30-foot activity zone. I'm looking for net gain. Do you have, what's that figure? Was that the 230 square feet?
Yeah, 228 square feet net gain of less structure.
All right, I guess this board's kind of split, so I normally go with, if we get a net gain, I know that, but that's just the way I've been basically approaching all of these type of projects, whether anybody likes it or not. I don't particularly like it, but I do see a gain. So in this case, I will not be making a motion on this at all, but I'll make the motion to close the hearing.
Well, I think it's up to the applicant, first of all, too, if he wants to request a continuance to potentially consider some other thoughts. That's the option of the applicant. So I guess that would be the first question.
I have a question on it, like you have 230 square feet less structure within that 30-foot buffer zone. That is a pretty significant change here. We're also set back quite a bit from the existing pond, where we could go and rebuild on this footprint here. Which right now is just under 13 feet from the pond. Right now, we're going to be moving it back close to 9 feet. And that setback where the deck is where the proposed deck extends to, towards the pond, is where the actual house is that sits today.
Yeah.
So it's considerable change over what's there today. I know, again, new construction, if this was vacant lot, there'd probably be 30 feet of woods there that we'd have to maintain, and I have no problems with that. This is a pre-existing site. It's been used for decades, obviously fully used with docks and walls and grass and decks and stairs, retaining walls all over the site as it is today. So it's something that the site was used, it's a bigger house, but it's an improvement in regards to this local bylaw, in regards to the setback off of the pond. Again, the dry wells that we could add will capture runoff, which will infiltrate it and reduce the amount of runoff from this property, just because the current house probably doesn't have any type of dry wells. So that runoff from that pond probably eventually makes it to the pond on a larger rainstorm.
I think part of the dilemma, maybe certainly mine, but I see the function of the board as it's a primary responsibility is to protect the water, all of it. And we have the opportunity here, regardless of the fact that there is a building there now, and that's out of our jurisdiction. That's grandfathered. We can't do anything about that. If it goes away, that's a plus. If it doesn't go away, it's benign, essentially. There's no negative for it not going away. So you're welcome to use it. But here we have the opportunity to fix a shoreline the way it ought to, the way the town is written, it ought to be. And the opportunity is, it's an easier opportunity because you're going to tear down the old one and build from scratch. It just doesn't seem like there's a lot of overwhelming reason for the board to flex here. There are times when we have to, and we certainly do. But it just seems like it's starting from scratch. Just build it right. I mean, it's just hard to get past that.
This is what, 10 feet high.
I'm sure they're
So when you had
set on a design, but I've
this away,
probably known 15 architects in my life that could put something in there that would wow anybody. I don't know why a concession needs to be made, I guess. There doesn't seem to be an overwhelming need to make a concession from my point of view. Maybe, that may not be true for the rest of them. But, and I hate being inflexible. It's against my nature. But I don't see why I don't see why I shouldn't be inflexible here. I mean, your argument's a good one. It gets it better, but it's not good enough because it hasn't been designed and built yet. So there isn't the get better. There's only right and what used to be. And you have the right to use what used to be, and there's no argument there.
But,
so there isn't a get better.
Eliminating our right to build there is offset, to build where it's proposed. So
I know you think there's I see that there seems to be this great compromise, but I don't see the need to compromise there. I don't, if this structure was, if you wanted to extend the old one, we'd say no. if you were coming here and say, well, we're gonna reuse the old structure, but we'd like to add, we'd like to widen it along the bottom of the note, I don't think anyone here would say,
No,
yeah, go ahead.
I completely agree with you.
But that's not the case. The case is, you're starting from scratch, and I don't know, I'm having trouble getting past that. So, that's where I sit, and I think in the long run, it's a lot easier for, if I were doing this, and I do. I mean, I buy and sell property and build and, have all my life. I just designed something else, but that's.
What if we were to come up with some type of buffer, landscaping buffer that we can be created? Because right now, there's nothing out there. It's pretty much grass right down to that stone wall right along the water there. It'll eliminate some grass, maybe planting mulch or wood chips or something like that, that'll, help a buffer or slow down runoff
I don't know.
over what's there today.
I don't know how that works with, I'm too new to know how that works with this body here.
It's a trade-off.
I would see that, trade-offs are done all the time, and so that might be a good thing. It would probably be native, native growth and whatever, but I would need guidance on that one. Help me. Shoot me down or support me, I don't care what you do, but somebody else help me here.
I guess I have the feeling that, a lot of people, when they come in, they know right off the bat, and their engineers know that these are the rules. And the engineers don't let them get any farther than that wishful thinking the first time around on a new building. We're going to run into problems if we try to expand laterally in this position. Even if you're expanding, you're taking an existing foundation and you're going away from the water. You still have certain issues to deal with. It is not ocean, so that is a little different. It isn't quite as strict. The rules don't seem quite as stringent. But it's a huge deck, and I know that that's great, and I think, as Rob said, the walkout is interesting, and what are they going to do there? They're not going to just leave it dirt, right there underneath the deck. They're going to have to do something. It'll be mud.
Yeah, it'd be crushed stone. You're not gonna be able to plant grass underneath there.
No, they're not going to put crushed stone either, because crushed stone isn't very nice on your feet when you're coming out of the lower area. It's going to be a nice deck.
See what that would be, and it would be nothing like
It's going to be a nice deck. It looks like it's going to be a beautiful home. I mean, is there anything you can think of in the design? We don't know what the design of the home is like that would give you the ability to move?
I'd have to talk to the applicant about the design of the structure, what could change. This was something that they had their mindset on, and
But that's where
they
an architect
wanted this
comes
house a
in.
lot closer, and I told them definitely not. They wanted to build on that footprint. I said, you can't do that. You can't.
If they want to keep to the size of the footprint, they can.
But that would, obviously, now we're stuck with the same house, and you're stuck with it. You're sitting back here like, oh, I guess I have to approve it because I can't, they're allowed to do that. I'm pulling it away considerable distance and reducing the footprint and removing all the impervious area outside of that 30 foot.
And I get that, but it just doesn't negate the other issue. The other issue being, for me, being the fact that if you don't build on the existing structure, it's a blank slate. And if it's a blank slate, it ought to fit the rules. And that's,
And of course they are, but they can make
that
it impervious.
really comes down to that.
They can make it pervious. They can make it see to the water.
The way to go.
But that would have to be. Excuse me.
I would suggest continuing it. So that they can go back drawing board.
And I think the board, too, could then discuss this as a board and decide how you want to address these kind of projects, you know?
There is the future. What do we do for the next one? What do we do for the
Right, so I
next
think
lot over?
you just need to have a sense of,
Tear down, rebuild, we just did it, so it's, just got one approved on the southern site. So it's no different.
I don't know, I wasn't here.
Yeah.
I can't
Just
speak.
got a deck approved to turn into a screen porch with probably a roof 20 feet. So it's like,
well, again,
there's
that was.
so many different projects.
that-
I didn't know the specifics, but
Yeah,
it's,
Some of those are working within existing footprints, though, too, and that's
That was.
the other issue.
Yeah,
All right,
So-
I'll call my motion to close the hearing. It
Okay.
wasn't even second, so. All right.
then we'll just request a continuance, and I'll just talk to the applicants about what other changes that can be made to the site.
It's hard.
Okay.
It's really hard.
yeah, because I think, listening to the board, the rest of the board members, the concern is the 30-foot. The 30-foot, I mean, yes, you're pulling part of the old structure out of the 30-foot, which I appreciate that, but you still got that deck and that sunroom
Okay, yeah.
that's going to be a major thing in the 30-foot, and crushed stone, you know as well as I do. And it's not gonna work on, we're running in and out to go to our jet skis when we're gonna be barefoot. That ain't gonna work. Next thing you know, we're gonna go and find concrete pad put down there, and
Could
the
you-
fight
could-
begins.
Can you go to your people and say, can we put a pervious material underneath the deck? I mean, just small things that would perhaps make a difference to the board, that if that were pervious, then, or impervious, whatever, I don't know.
If this were an empty lot, and you were sitting down with the client and saying, okay, here are the rules, you gotta fit it in here, what do you wanna do? That's what you do. Because it is.
Well, I think we can beat this till it's dead in the water right now. I think we'll just continue it, and you go back to your people, and we'll discuss it
Yeah.
more
Is there a site meeting you guys want to take? Any members want to actually see the site?
Well, I myself and
You've seen-
Joe have been
okay,
there, and
all right.
I understand
Okay.
the site. You might suggest the rest of you.
I'll
Yeah.
go by.
I mean,
Yeah.
with a foot of snow on it, you're not going to see much in
No.
the next 2 weeks, so it'd have to
Well,
be first thing in the morning.
Maybe we won't get the foot of snow.
Hopefully not.
I'm hoping
It'll
not.
just be ice.
I want rain too.
17th sound good?
17th, yeah, fine.
Okay, I'll make a motion to continue this to the 17th of January.
Second.
Joe's motion, seconded by Mary. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions?
Keep that one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
What's that?
Minutes for November 1st,
Dave,
2017.
that's why I wanted to remember about a year and a half ago, I brought this up, we should put something
Okay,
down as sort of
members
like a-
present were myself,
When it comes to
Sandy,
things like this.
Alicia,
Get something up, get
uh,
something written down.
Your,
Jim
phone
Smith,
number and email?
Mr. Lassen,
And we're done.
David Pichette. Has anybody had a chance to look them over?
I will tell you, I
Online?
did not. I did not. Would you
Like
like me to
to-
do it now?
Cruise through quick?
Sure.
I looked it over and I didn't,
Yeah, I didn't see nothing either.
it was, finally,
Alright.
it was when I was at.
While
Wasn't
she's
9
doing,
years ago.
while she's doing that, I realize we do have, the bylaw does have a discretion clause in it. I can understand what you're talking about, so I don't disagree with it. I don't know if there's any thoughts of compromise. Well, we'll see what they come back
Well,
with.
there may be, but there hasn't been any yet. Moving the building that 23 inches or whatever they moved it wasn't, I didn't see that as a compromise.
David, your thoughts?
Well, as far as the bylaw, it says what it says, so we need to kind of focus on that. It does provide for someone to reutilize an area that's already been built on, as far as the house and all that. But it doesn't necessarily say that you can sort of pick and choose how you want to apply it, So we really should, when we can, try to not permit new projects within that zone. That's the way the bylaw reads, unless they want to reutilize the footprint, which they obviously don't want to do.
Yeah,
And I understand that, like, in a case like this, they are pulling the house back further away from the water, which I think is a plus, but when you look at the original house and you look at what's going to be there, it's like 3 times the size of the original house. I mean, when you're said and done, that's what you're going to end up with. So, I understand they want a certain thing, and I can appreciate that, definitely. So maybe they have to lose some deck space or something, maybe they have to make a modification in that sense.
The other thing is, it's sort of interesting to me that they have, this sunroom, which it basically comes back to the level, and it's disturbed here where the old concrete foundation was, and then you have the deck over that, and then where there was no foundation, now they have a sunroom. Even moving the sunroom would make things a little more where you could say, well, they're trying to move within this.
Well, if they actually
area,
remove the old building, then again, they can't remove the, I don't think, but I would think they can't remove the building and then say, we're gonna put something there again. You remove the building, you're back to,
Square.
my biggest issue is, and I haven't been here long, but I have seen you be really, excuse me, that 30-foot zone, you've required fencing and signs in other places, and now this? No. Literally, in 10 years, you go to that house, and there's no 30-foot zone there. They're living on the water.
Well, so in this case, they're kind of already have
Doing
done
that
that,
now.
Some of the sites we deal with are previously undeveloped, and we put requirements in for fencing and so forth, so that way that area doesn't end up like this one is,
Right.
So those scenarios are a little bit different. These are the tough ones, where you've already got a site that's been utilized, if you will, which, again, I'm fine with them still having lawn there, whatever they have. It's just, to me, when you're, like I said, doubling or tripling the size of what you have there, to me, that's kind of the issue. You're really making a huge increase in the overall, you're gonna end up with a 2,500 square foot house there. You had probably a 700 square foot.
And I don't know what I know there are different laws between fresh and salt water, but I'd actually argue, whether the laws do that or not, that the fresh water is a lot more delicate than the salt water.
I think you're right, but I think the rules are more stringent because of FEMA and FEMA's decision and all that in some ways.
Well, yeah, that's more relating to flood requirements and so forth than it is
So
to the
ridiculous.
30-foot no activity.
So ridiculous, don't get me going
Yeah,
on that.
so that's sort of a different thing. But the 30-foot is the same whether it's coastal or inland.
I just don't see any reason to intrude upon it. They can intrude upon what's already been intruded upon. That's their legal right, and that's it. It's benign. We get what, we take what we get there. If they take it away, awesome. If they don't, it just is what it is.
What about, she said she wanted lawn on the side. That's why they didn't want to turn the house. I mean,
No, I think their reason for not wanting to turn the house is because you got 4 lots there.
I
Right.
think they might want to sell
If they wanted to
eventually.
sell,
Yeah.
they could sell part of it. I mean, even though their septic system is on it.
Yeah, I don't think that's.
I don't think that's gonna happen, but, I mean.
Yeah, I don't think they can sell any part of that. It's all one property now. It's,
Yeah.
it's not
Put
something they can
together
sell.
on
a
the
piece.
deed as a single unit.
Yeah, they wouldn't be able to sell a piece of that off the way things currently stand.
What other reason would they have not to turn it?
Well, like he said, they
Well, then
wanted
again-
the larger yard area on the side, but.
Right, so why should the town break its rules and give up the 30 foot and then possibly have troubles down the road because of doing it, because somebody wants a little more lawn?
Well, I think that's the problem that I have is where is the line drawn on this 30-foot? I know that a lot of times people say it's been disturbed. Well, I mean, I don't know.
Well-
And you hate to say
Well,
to
they
people.
change the bylaws, and they rewrite these laws over time, again and again, over, as things change, and the laws get a little more stringent, a little more explicit, and yes, things are grandfathered, but all in all, they're designed to help bring things back to better, not, you know what I mean? We're here to protect that, and as the laws have gotten upgraded, and I haven't, obviously can't spout them, but the set of laws that this town had 100 years ago was a whole lot less restrictive than they are now. So these laws seem to me to be growing in a fact to protect our resources. And a 30-foot no activity zone by definition, by name, is a no activity zone. And you do what you can to keep it that way. And where they're starting with a blank slate, I would be a lot more flexible if it wasn't a blank slate. But it is. I mean, they either use what's there, which they have a right to do, or this is an empty lot. And if they came in, if this was an empty lot, they came in here and they said they wanted to do that, we'd say no. Because they wouldn't have, well, we're making it better. No, you're not. You're not making it better. It's an empty lot. You fit within the rules, or you don't. The fact that you have the right to do something that's grandfathered doesn't mean you have the right to do something else that's not grandfathered just because you got rid of the grandfathered clause and made it a little better. And I think that, and it's just a feeling, but it seems like we're getting, they've never shown up.
No.
I think we're getting railroaded. I think they're just like, keep sending the guy there and, send a lawyer there, and they never show up, and no concession yet, none. They moved the house 2 feet, big deal.
Joe, you've been on this board for a long time. What's your thought on this? I mean,
I already said it.
say it again if you don't mind. I'd
No, I do
appreciate it.
mind.
Okay, all right.
Let you guys figure
Fine.
it out. I like to just stay consistent.
Well, I think that's a big thing. is
Plus,
stay
when you
cons-
mention about the 35, and you're going about the size of the house, our concern is that 35, not what they can do behind there, unless that's gonna inflict damage. To me, I like going by where it's already disturbed area. They're taking out stuff out of that area and bettering it.
And I understand that. but
It's
they're gonna
not
take it
my
out.
job to figure out if they can afford to do this or do that. That's going beyond. Now, like I say, I
They're gonna
just
take it out
disagree.
anyway.
That's why I'd rather not give you my opinion, because
Yeah.
it differs from yours.
Okay.
And I'm not a good orator.
Well, I think, too, on some of these cases, and, it's not going to happen a lot, but there may be certain instances where there is a split vote by a board, and that happens. And so you end up with whatever the board votes,
That's why I basically,
So,
I will allow somebody else to make the motion.
right, so we'll see, there's been some good points, I think, brought up. He's gonna go back and try to see what he can get as far as a further remediation. When he comes back, the board will have to make a judgment call on it, And again, you'd like to be consistent. This is a tricky site because it is previously developed to some degree. And so everybody's gonna have their viewpoint on it. The main thing is to try to apply the bylaw as best we can, or as a
Right.
member you think you are doing. And so that's
And I
what it comes
understand
down to.
But I also don't think that they've been said no to enough. I think you need to send it back a bunch of times and let the people who don't want to show up in front of this board actually know they're not going to get what they want until they actually make a real concession.
We don't really know where they live, we don't know where they're from.
Yeah, the applicant.
Kind of a hard thing.
Yeah, the
that
applicants
part.
aren't required to be here. Many of them have representatives represent them. There's no obligation for them to be here.
And that's,
So,
okay,
but
that's
but I
fine. So
think what
take-
you're saying
Take that off the board.
is a good point. They really didn't come back with much of a concession, you know.
That's because they think they're going to get it.
Right, so now they've been told something else, and so he's gonna go back. The hearing was continued. We'll see what he comes back with, and
Right.
the board will have to work.
He's going to sit in front of them and go, I don't think this is going to fly. What are you really willing to do?
Right.
And they're going to give it, they're going to look at a plan and go, I can do anything I want with this. I can't tell you how many houses I've designed. I haven't built them all, but I certainly designed a bunch of them. And you go, how do you make this fit in what you can do? You know, and it's not just the budget, you got to make it fit your budget, you got to make it fit the land, you got to make it fit the requirements of the boards you're going to sit in front of. And they haven't had to do that yet. They haven't seen the no. You're not going to get what you want. Put some real thought into this, and I'd like to see that. And I think I'd be a little more flexible when there's a little more flex on the other side, too. I'm not trying to be a hard ass.
Yeah, no, I
All
understand.
right, well, we'll see what they come back with at the next meeting, and we'll make some thoughts from there. In the meantime, like I said, go back and, if for those of you who may not have done it, read the bylaw specifically in terms of what it says, so you understand what's allowed, what maybe isn't allowed, when there's exemptions that can be applied, and so forth. Other than that, let's see what he comes back with for a change, and we'll work from there.
Yeah, the sad part of the flip side of this coin is they're already using that area.
Right.
And you're gonna tell them you can't use it no more because it's within 35-foot buffer. Well,
But we're not gonna tell them they can't use
Yeah,
it, we're gonna tell them they can't build within it.
Right, we're just,
There's a big difference there.
There is.
Nobody can prevent them from using it, it's their yard, you know?
and we
but-
understand it's gonna be like that,
Right,
but
the difference is to allow construction within it, because that's where the board has to be cautious for other projects, how this site might be impacted and so forth, because, you know, we're gonna get others in that area that come in with similar proposals.
most definitely.
So, that, so give it some thought, and we'll see what he comes back with.
Yeah, that's all we can do.
I'll go visit the site and reread the rules. I could read them once.
Yeah.
before it came out.
Do you have,
Okay, no, we're not done. We're not finished with the minutes. Alyssa did find a typo. On the,
With the
Yeah,
proposed
White Island Point.
typo there.
yeah,
Priscilla
right
Road.
here,
Priscilla
it said 3 instead of tree cutting.
All right, yep, that's fine, we can fix that.
Okay. Take a motion.
I wasn't here for that one.
That doesn't, it doesn't really matter. You can abstain if you want.
I prefer, we've been doing that.
Okay, well, we'll have enough to do it anyway, because you were here, you were an associate, but you were still here.
Abstaining still counts towards it.
I wasn't here either.
Yeah, abstaining still counts towards
I was
the vote,
absent.
so, if Lisa wants to make a motion, to say that, I make a motion to approve with the typo being corrected, something to that effect.
I make a motion to approve the minutes with the typo correction.
I second. Second.
Elisa's motion, seconded by Rob. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention?
Abstain.
2 abstentions? 3 approved.
Yep.
That's fine.
Okay. Now we're done.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Here's a second.
Second.
All right, Joe's motion, seconded by Rob. All those in favor?
Second.
Yeah.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Good night. All set.
Thank you.